I can't believe I let my friends talk me into this. This is by far the dumbest thing I've ever done. I knew as soon as I told my friends in middle school I was a sensitive, they would want to test my skills. They'd take me to local cemeteries or some spooky house in town to test my abilities. We did research after to see if my feelings were right. That's what we used to do years ago before this all started. Not tonight. They wanted to build upon our paranormal investigation experience, uncover something larger, grander than before, someplace no one had ever looked. But why in the woods? This far up the mountain? At night? Maybe catch a shot of Bigfoot or the screams of that witch that supposedly cried out at nights from this one spot. The amateurs we were, relying on cell phone apps and a single digital camera to record our evidence. More like Scooby-Doo and the gang. Usually we get ourselves into more mischief than actually gathering conclusive findings. Our little group has been curious about all the myths and legends in the world, our world of Oregon, our childhood curiosities leading us to our specific specialties of study in college to have a well-rounded group of paranormal investigators. My sensitive abilities was an added bonus, using my natural gifts to guide us to areas we were most likely to get some evidence. What I didn't tell my friends was I had a few more capabilities. I'm more than just a sensitive. I can pick up more than simple residual feelings or emotions. I could see pictures in my mind embedded in the energy of my surroundings. Some historical and the less pleasant are the apparitions I occasionally see. Those poor souls trapped bound to this earthly plane and happen to cross my path for help. I'm not skilled enough to offer. I've been that way since I was little. I had imaginary friends that I conversed with a lot as they passed through the property my parents owned. My parents silly thought it was normal childhood imagination, but that was far from the truth. Hey, I need to stop for a bathroom break, please, I call out to my group. Geez, Sarah, if you hadn't guzzled that entire thermos of coffee before we got here, that wouldn't be an issue, Jennifer snorted. Jared, Travis, and Aaron stopped on the trail, leaning against a tree while we girls tried to figure out a solution for my current situation. Maya looks at me concerned. Would you like us to cover for you? I smile. Thank you so much. I'm just going to go duck behind these bushes over here. I'll be fast, promise. Jennifer hands me some napkins from her pack as I nod a thanks before ducking behind the shrubs. Of course, directly behind the thicket was a huge open area, and I knew I could be easily seen or heard. I used my flashlight to navigate across to another set of bushes I could duck behind and handle my business. I finally found a rock to hide behind, placed my flashlight in my mouth and messed with my belt and handled what I needed to. When I finished, I gathered myself, taking Jennifer's bottle of hand sanitizer from my pocket to clean my hands. I walked back around the rock and pushed my way through the bushes that I had came in from. But what I saw next was bizarre. The open area between the bushes my friend stood where I hid, it's gone. Confused, I began calling out and heard nothing. No one called back. I headed the direction I thought my friends were and made my way through the second set of bushes. They were gone, and the area looked completely different except for the path we had walked. I can't believe I got lost. Not even 20-some feet away, and I lose them. I continued calling out, and still no answer. Not even a cricket or a frog making noise out here. Figuring maybe they had gone back to the car, I began walking down the path we'd came, calling out for anyone as I walked, and was greeted with only silence. I can't remember how far I walked, but I never came across our car, not even a set of tire tracks where I thought I had parked. Do I dare try and walk back? If they were planning to head back, why had no one said anything when I wasn't far? I stood there contemplating for some time and had hoped I would hear someone call for me, or I for them, but nothing. That's when I heard it. The bone-chilling shriek in the dark of the fabled witch. Huh. I held my breath as it tried to heave when my heart started to hammer in the inside of my chest. Pressing my back against the nearest tree, I waited and listened. And then I heard it again. This time it wasn't so funny. The disbelief, my hair on my neck actually stood when I noticed that shriek sounded closer. Panic struck when suddenly the leaves and shrubs began crunching not far off to my right, the same direction as the shriek I heard twice. I'd pass it if I dared run back. I couldn't think straight. I was here alone. I have no idea where to go. My gang's gone. The chomping became louder and closer. My instincts kicked in with a huge breath. I had to take a chance. I ran back the direction I had last seen my friends. Of course, screaming their names in hopes someone would hear me. My voice raised when I heard footfalls in the dirt on the path behind me, ducking and dodging through the trees, then back to the path, praying that was enough to confuse whatever was following me. That's when my foot found a hole. Of course, I fell, hitting my head on a tree root sticking from the ground. I had enough time to see it coming, but no chance to brace for it, and I was out cold. Girls, where's Sarah? I call out, because we had been waiting for way longer than this should have taken. Maya and Jennifer both shrug. They exchange glances, and Maya raises her hand to offer. I'll go look. Maybe she needs help. Maya pushes her way through the bushes, Jennifer on her heels. Maya calls out, Sarah, how's it going back there? But there was no answer. For some reason, immediately I knew something was wrong because Sarah should have heard Maya, and Sarah would have answered. I looked at Jared and Aaron, motioning with my head in the direction the girls went. I didn't want to intrude, and only got shrugs from the guys, but knowing either way this situation, we may have to go have a look. So I shout, all right, we're coming too. I call out and push my way through the bushes. I was surprised when this opened into a clearing, and there stood Jennifer and Maya, searching, confused. Jennifer cups her hands over her mouth. Sarah! She calls out, but it echoed through the silent woods. No answer. Where could she have gone? I asked, puzzled, feeling my heart rate increase at the concerns filling my head. I got a bad feeling about this. Jared looks around and calls out for Sarah himself. Still no answer. I look at Maya, suggesting, call her phone. Maya nods, and she already had her cell phone in her hand, so she quickly placed the call. Within seconds, she huffs, shaking her head, removing the phone from her ear to say, voicemail. Aaron raises his hand in front of him, tilting his head to the side. Call her again. I think I heard her phone. Maya hit send, and soon we could hear the ringtone from Sarah's phone. Maya kept calling as we followed the sound, and it led us back to the path we'd come in. Leaning down, I grabbed the phone while it was lit up, and Maya's picture filled the screen. Somehow it was next to this tall tree on top of some dried leaves, as if it either fallen out of Sarah's pocket or maybe it was purposely set here. My brow furrowed as I held the phone up. I don't get it. She would have noticed if she dropped her phone. I looked back at the group. Why would her phone be there? Jennifer asked, perplexed. We stayed in the center of the path the entire time. We would have heard it hit the ground. And I don't recall us passing here or Sarah passing us to find another spot. I suggest to the group, feeling my anxiety building, knowing this is not good. We have to call someone. Maya, get your brother up here with his quad and anyone else you could think of, or him. Jen, Jared, and Aaron, you guys too. Just start calling people. I'm calling the sheriff to get him up here. It was rather quick. They agreed. They got on their phones, began calling anybody that was in their contact list. Anybody that had a small vehicle with lights to search, since no cars can get back here. Then again, we really don't have many friends outside this group, but we do have family and they have friends. The sheriff should have people ready to go too. That right there would be best in this situation. We'll find her. We'll find her. I had to keep telling myself as I waited for the sheriff's office to answer. I have this gut feeling something is definitely wrong, but I need to remain calm. I'm the team leader. That's how this works. The shrill, guttural scream from the trees caught our attention. I nearly dropped my phone myself. All sets of eyes meeting, exchanging wide glances. You could tell our heads were full of questions. After a moment of shared silent panic at the thought of abandoning Sarah to run, that's when that second shriek came. And we bailed straight back for the safety of the car. I knew that scream was not Sarah. I hope whoever made that scream or what didn't get Sarah. I can't even interpret if that sound was human. There were brief glimpses of me being awake, as could feel I was being carried. I hoped it was by my friends and that we were going home, but doubtful. I don't recognize this man's cologne, and he's huge, bigger than Jared, Aaron, or even Travis. And Travis had a football scholarship. He was big. Whoever this was seemed to be wearing a heavy coat, too, which is odd for this time of year. May is generally a decent month for daytime temperatures. The nights can get cool, but not heavy coat cold. Especially fur? Is this fur? Who'd be wearing fur? I drifted off again as the man carried me and my thoughts into the darkness. Sometime later, I woke in a very soft bed, opening one eye to look around, though my head throbbed, but I had to see if I was safe. I know I'm not at home, but where am I? The space was very cozy. I'm laying in a single bed up against a wall, near a fireplace. There was a small chair in front of the window, the lantern on a table. Directly across from me, I could feel a slight cool breeze coming in through the gaps of the old wooden siding. This looks to be like somebody's hunting cabin, maybe a getaway spot to escape the summer heat in the valley below. Basic necessities indoors because most of their time's going to be spent outside. I released a soft gasp when the front door opened and heard a male voice. "Oh good, you're awake." I watched this massive figure cross the room in few steps and watch the light flicker across his smooth face when he lit the lantern. He didn't appear much older than me, maybe 25. "How are you feeling?" He kept his voice above a whisper, knowing my head probably was killing me. I never said a word. I watched closely curiously as this very tall, dark-haired man approached the bed, making sure to sit very close to the foot of the bed. I don't think he wanted to scare me. He had very broad shoulders and these amazingly kind brown sugar eyes. His appearance was probably at first a bit intimidating, but when he sat and looked at me, I just knew I was safe. I tried to speak, but my throat was so raspy all I could get out is my head is pounding. He stood, and it seemed a single bound to grab water out of the cooler, and he turned back and passed me a bottle, chuckling as he noticed that I was pulling my hand back from the ever-growing goose egg on my head and noticing goo all over my fingertips. I put some salve on the cut on your head. It's all natural. That'll clean it up and help it heal better. Not much for pain. Sorry about that, he said. I just told him thank you for doing that, and then guzzled down water until I was sheepishly wiping drips from my chin. I'd asked if he'd happened to see anyone else out on the path because I'd got separated from my friends. Told him I had walked down and I couldn't even find our car. He said he figured that I was lost and that he'd just now gotten back from where he had found me, searching for clues. His look so apologetic as he tells me, "There's no one out there." The bottle empty, it crinkled in his hand when I passed it back to him, and he tossed it in the sink in the small kitchenette in the corner. "Thank you for trying. Thanks for the water, too. I was, parched." And we both shared a laugh. For some reason, when he sat back on the foot of the bed, I decided that I would jerk myself around from underneath the blankets, moving my legs to stand on the floor. "Do we try to look again?" I suggest. "I think I can try." And just as I stood, my ankle gave under my own weight. But my God, his reflexes were awesome. Suggesting that he missed an injury, I got settled back on the bed so he could take a peek. And it was him that was wincing when he moved my foot in a circle and then smiled comfortingly, telling me it appeared to only be a sprain. And he let me know that he had a wrap and ice. God, he moved so fast, grabbing the first aid kit from the kitchen and returning with the wrap. And then he crinkled this bag of what he called quick ice and put it over the first layers and then wrapped the remaining wrap around my leg to hold it in place. "That's not too tight, is it?" God, I was gazing into his eyes and got lost, and I must have had the most stupid smile on my face when I said, "It's perfect, thank you." Oh my God. What's wrong with you, girl? Reaching out my hand, offering to shake, I shook my own head at myself. "I'm sorry. I am so rude. My name is Sarah." He smiled and gently took my hand into his massive one, offering a very soft shake. "Very nice to meet you, Sarah. My name is Caleb." He had a look of angst on his face that I couldn't quite read when I asked if this was his little getaway spot. To that he only answered that he actually lived here. I was surprised. All year round? How does he get supplies? And then I got scared and popped off with the stupidest thing I probably could have said. "Oh no, I didn't stumble across a secret ghost site, did I?" Oh, thank God he laughed. He quickly reassured me that that was not the case. He preferred the secluded life and pointed out that the house that we had passed down the mountain on our way up was his uncle's, who brings him supplies every few days. I guess his parents had passed and left him that little place. His uncle was his guardian for some time, watched over him, and when he reached age, he moved up into his parents' cabin and has lived there ever since. I don't understand why he felt so shy about his situation, but I offered him a soft smile, said at least you had family to help. You seem well adjusted considering the circumstances. I'd probably be an absolute wreck, wouldn't have known what to do. You seem to have done well. I appreciate the compliment. It wasn't easy at first, but I'm still healing and moving forward. Actually, we could probably get a hold of my uncle tomorrow morning and he could get you home. I'm sorry I don't have a phone, but I could walk down in the morning. He has quads, and I could probably give you a lift back to rest that ankle. I was so excited at his mention of a phone, I hadn't even realized that mine was gone. I'm not even sure where I dropped it. He reassured me that we'd sort it all out shortly. He'd talk to his uncle and get everything squared away first thing in the morning. I asked where he was going to sleep because I was stealing his only bed. To that, he just sat in his chair next to his lantern and grabbed a book from the table. Told me he was going to creepily watch me sleep for signs of a concussion, just in case. It felt nice to be worried about. I wonder where my friends are. I wonder if they're okay, if they made it back to the car. I guess I'll find out in the morning. I know they're probably out of their minds right now, but I feel strangely comfortable, like I was drawn to be right here. The shrieking and screaming followed closely as we ran. What the hell is that? Jennifer nearly tripped as she turned to check over her shoulder. I was able to right her on her feet because we were all holding hands and running like our lives depended on it. Well, I think it did. Oh my God, we should have waited for Sarah. Thunderous footfalls come from behind as we finally reach the car, and then as fast as it all began, all the sounds stopped. I wasn't wasting a second. I fumbled for my keys. Everybody stood with their backs to the car, and I scrambled to unlock the one door just to hit the button to unlock the rest. Maya, her squeals cut through my thoughts of Sarah. I turned just in time to see her fly off through the air towards the trees and shadows, a shriek echoing through the mountains. It looked like a giant invisible claw just plucked her from her feet and sucked her back into the woods. Oh my God, Jennifer screams. Jared clutches her close when she flung out her arms, reaching for Maya, and was unable to get her in time. Jared twisted Jennifer around, shoving her in front of him, trying to get her into open the car door. There wasn't enough time. Ah! Aaron flew past me as if sucked into the trees by an enormous vacuum. I'd managed to grab his wrist, and I got pulled along with him for a few feet before I dropped to the ground, having no choice but to let him go. Scurrying back to my feet, I ran for the car and heard Jennifer cry out just as Jared was pulled through the air after he had got her shoved inside. Hurriedly, I reached for my door handle and see Jennifer move to stand from the car. Before I had a chance to shout, she screamed and was gone. My heart exploding in my chest, realizing I am alone. I could only hear my own pulse in my head. Sarah, Sarah. Where are you? I was in the safety of my car, fumbling with the keys again, trying to get my thoughts straight. What happened to my friends? That's when I heard the shriek behind me. I turned, just shielding myself with the door, trying to get those keys in that ignition. Then I paused. I don't even know why. Until I saw this woman, where that shriek had come from, walking out from the woods wearing a white nightgown. It was so weird. She looked like she was glowing. My thoughts reeling. Oh my God. The witch. That was just a story. Oh my God, this can't be true. Sarah, Jared. Oh my God. I can't be all that's left. Suddenly my eyes were locked on her, mesmerized as she slowly approached me from the side of the car, smiling as we're gazing at each other. I was frozen with fear and confusion, though she looked harmless, and I could only stare at her, unsure what to do next. I had the keys in the ignition. All I had to do was turn it. Slowly, she reached her hand out for me, giggled coyly. Raising my brow, I looked down at her hand, knowing I was not going to take that. Oh, my hesitation just changed her smile quickly to a serious, angry face. Jaws opening so wide I could almost hear them snapping. She released this shriek so powerful that it felt like bass from loud music was coursing through me. My adrenaline got my body moving. I turned that key and the car roared to life. I know I had moved my leg to stomp on the accelerator, not even bothering with the door. But then I was met with only darkness. I woke up several times, my brain rerunning the sound in my head, giving chase. That witch story, that was only a silly urban legend. However, just like a scary movie, it kept replaying in my mind because none of it made sense. I'd startled Caleb a few times. I jerked straight up in the bed, breaths heaving. He'd just walk over and console me. It's just a dream. Just a couple more hours and you'll be home safe. He'd rub my head with his palm until I fell back to sleep. He was back in his chair reading each time I woke, offering me a soothing smile. How did he make me feel so safe? True to his word, first light broke. Caleb woke me as he was putting on his coat. I'll be right back with my uncle's quad. I don't want you walking down the hill on that ankle yet. I nod and thank him, and he smiles and exits the cabin. I should be grateful. I wasn't lost in the woods, and soon I'll be home. However, this seemed bittersweet. I have a feeling I'll never get to see Caleb again, and I really want to. It wasn't long before he arrived back and carried me from the cabin, setting me onto the back of the quad, offering me his coat and helmet. He sat in front, and I wrapped my arms around him as tight as I could. He was so broad my fingers barely touched around his midsection. He took off down the hill at an easy pace. Wind was still too much for me, so I placed my cheek against his back, and something about his scent, I released this content sigh that just made him chuckle because he caught it. We arrived at his uncle's, and he carried me up the front steps, his uncle quickly opening the door and ushering us inside so he could check my ankle and head again. Nice man, but he seemed frazzled. I noticed the TV was on and could hear the news announce, 6 college students were reported missing this morning. Here with our latest, Stu. Gasping, I look over and see our pictures. I sit up on the couch as all our attention is now on the local morning news. Thank you, Bill. I am here on the college campus of the recently reported missing students. They had told friends that they were going out for a drive, and when they never returned, the dorm advisor notified their parents, and they called police. They showed each of our pictures, and then a group shot with all of our names. Oh my God, how did no one make it home or out at all? I am totally freaking out. If anyone has spotted their vehicles or these students, please notify the county sheriff's office tip line at the number on your screen. We'll keep you posted as we can, but leads are minimal at this point. Thank you for any help that can be offered from this community. Back to you, Bill. Caleb looks to his uncles wide-eyed. They both turn to me. His uncle averts his gaze briefly before he asks me, You were with them? Your friends? I nod and feel tears stinging my eyes. I can find them, I think. They probably just waited for me and haven't called anyone yet. Caleb looks to his uncle. Let's go check it out. She knows where they went, but couldn't find their car last night and got lost. His uncle nods. That's when you found her? Yes, sir. She was unconscious under a tree when I found her. Caleb answers, biting his lip. His uncle turns to me stone-faced. Your injuries, my dear? So you know how these happened? I point at him excitedly. I tripped running from a scream I heard. Could it have been a cougar? Caleb's uncle shakes his head no, and then looks to Caleb, only saying, You saved one. Caleb looks to me apologetically, then looks to his uncle as if he was most insensitive man in the world. Should we go look for them? They may have waited for her, or they may have got lost themselves. His uncle shakes his head. I'm calling the sheriff first. They can go look for the car, but her family needs to know she is safe. Sheriff will help the others. His uncle spun and went to grab the phone. Caleb took a seat next to me on the couch. I reach for his hand, looking into his eyes, whispering as I ask, What did he mean by you saved one? Uncomfortable, Caleb clears his throat with a cough, glancing towards the kitchen before he replies, also in a hushed tone. I believe he meant, at least we found you. I'm sorry, he could be really blunt, but I know he's concerned for your friends too. I nod, not sure how to take that. For some reason, those words just struck me like a dagger. Like I knew. He knew. My friends are gone. Whisked away by a myth, an urban legend, a crazy witch. The sheriff's department quickly found the car. Oddly, it was still running with the lights on. Nearly out of gas, though. The light was even on. And oddly, 2 doors were wide open. Driver's side and back passenger. Caleb and his uncle kept me at their house so my parents could see me once the sheriff had questioned me and Caleb about last night. My parents both thanked Caleb and his uncle for helping me. It was almost funny the look on Caleb's face as my mother clutched to him, sobbing, Thank you for saving my baby, she gushed. Caleb just smiled. I'm glad could be there. She's a special girl. My parents tried to usher me off to the car, but I stopped them so I could at least say thank you to Caleb and his uncle. They nodded and offered us a moment, and they waited in the car. I walked to Caleb, folding my arms in front of me, and sniffle. I hope this isn't the only time we see each other, I blurt out, knowing why, and immediately feel my face heat up, embarrassed. Caleb chuckles and looks off into the distance. He takes in a deep breath, letting it out slowly. I was hoping I'd see you again, too. His gaze meets mine. I tell you what, I'd be willing to invest in a cell phone and we could figure out visits later. Probably smart I have one anyway, always there alone. Stubborn, I guess. I smile. point my finger in the air. Hang on 1 second. Rushing to my parents' car and having a brief argument with my mother, leading to a scuffle over a pen and paper she, thank God, had in the bottom of her purse. I rush back over to Caleb and pass him the folded piece of paper. Give me a few days to replace my phone. Then you can get a hold of me whenever you feel like having company. I giggle. His face softens and he looks deep into my eyes. You really are a special girl, Sarah. He holds up the folded paper between his fingers. I look forward to your company again sometime. I jump up just out of nowhere and assault him with a hug. And he let me, surprised, chuckling. I whispered in his ear, thank you for everything, Caleb. Don't lose that number. You're a special guy, too. I lean back and notice a blush to his already tanned cheeks, finding that rather endearing. We wave and I practically skip to my parents' car. I turn watching Caleb stand in his uncle's driveway, watching us as we pull off and head down the road. Home. I sat in the back seat thinking, I know that I should be really freaked out right now. That last moment there was completely selfish, Sarah. Why don't I feel guilty? My friends are missing. There was some crazy thing chasing me last night, and I could have easily been at dinner. Or it could have been that stupid urban legend we should have just left alone. My eyes watch the scenery as we drive. Neither of my parents saying or asking much yet. I didn't know what to say if they did. Whatever happened, Caleb saved me. We crossed paths for good reason. I giggle to myself thinking of him as my guardian angel. Such a beautiful soul locked away in that cabin in the woods. He says it's because he prefers solitary life. Although I just can't see it. He was rather warm and welcoming to me. I don't know what it is, but I just have this strange pull towards Caleb. It's probably my sensitive abilities picking up on something. His pain, maybe, from the loss of his parents. Maybe he really is lonely but won't admit it. I can identify with that, even with others around. Be nice to finally have somebody to talk about stuff like that. I hope he calls. My uncle was not thrilled at first at the thought of getting me a cell phone, although he quickly changed his mind because after something that occurred similar to last night, a cell phone for me up there in that cabin, being able to get a hold of him would have been ideal. I also asked if I could keep one of his quads up in the cabin just in case. He didn't seem to mind. Of course, I was thinking that would be just in case Sarah wanted to stop by sometime. Maybe I could meet her at his house. We could have dinner with the fam, or who knows. And then we could sneak back up on the quad to my cabin. I know he's concerned that Sarah, a human, may interfere with my duties, my responsibilities to guard all humans. But he's married to a human. Many people see Sasquatch as a guardian of the forest or even a savage beast hiding for centuries. However, we are, in fact, guardians. Sure, we can be savage when pressed. Although, as last night, we protect humans from the danger that lurk in the shadows. Like I saved Sarah from the witch. These are dangers humans don't usually see, whether it's lack of knowledge of the area or just lack of common sense. We, my family, people like us, we still protect from the evils that lie in wait to be fed. Our lands are alive with tectonic forces and naturally healing ecosystem that remains unchanged, mineral deposits filled with power still misunderstood, an abundance of natural water sources, and supernatural activities that occur nowhere else in this world. We, people like me, exist as a beacon to the paranormal, both good and bad. In this case, it was protecting a group of curious kids investigating an innocent urban legend. Unfortunately, as with many, there is some truth to these fables. As inexperienced as I am, I'm very lucky to have saved the one. As my uncle put it, I felt there was something about Sarah that was other than ordinary. That's why I watched her all night. She had this energy about her that she made me feel good to be alive again. I may never figure it out, but there was a special reason I found her. I'm clumsy with these new duties. It's so hard to live in two different worlds. One, I am Caleb the mountain recluse. I get to live as I wish and enjoy life, hope, and peace. Though it is a very lonely existence, and that's all it is. Existing. In World 2, I am a beast. There is no such thing as peace. I'm forced to see that evil does exist and have to fight it with all I have. I'm bound to this life until I pass this curse on to a child or children, as it's a very lonely existence. I do share these duties with my uncle for our region. His children aren't old enough to share yet. Not in this. Though I wish they were. Maybe I would be able to get to know Sarah, get a day off, have one of my cousins take over. After all, my uncle married a human. I really do love my aunt a lot. My cousins are awesome because of her. Of course, I'm not thinking of marriage. I mean, geez, we just met. But as my uncle and aunt, they still had time to get to know each other. I know I'd like to get to know Sarah and what it is that's so alluring about just her. That must be what I see in her. What my uncle saw in my aunt, her heart, her understanding nature, her soul so full of light that it envelops you in this warmth like a blanket just out of the dryer. Even after the scare and nasty spill she took, she was so calm. And it was simply nice to have her there. I'm glad I was able to protect her from the evil of the forest last night. From that witch who'd been waiting for some time to strike, and oh boy did she get it. I hope she waits longer next time. Has nothing to tempt her. That's if she comes out again for any reason. We try to starve her out and contain her as much as possible. But one can only fight so hard. The one right now is me. Her shriek is my call to duty. I'm glad I was prepared last night.